Hey guys, welcome back. We got another little video today. Today's something a little different. We're going to call this Story Time with Alan. So today we're going to talk about my 2017 Coast to Coast to Coast 100 ride with the Iron Butt Association. So if you're not familiar, the Iron Butt Association, it's a group of riders that do these endurance rides. It's international now. So rides across the country, the basic one's the Saddle Sore 1000, which is 1,000 miles in 24 hours, all to get this stupid license plate that you see here. So today we're going to talk about my attempt at the Coast to Coast to Coast 100 ride, which is East Coast, in my case, East Coast to West Coast, back to the East Coast in under 100 hours. So it's actually a coast to coast in under 50 hour, but when you combine the return trip, they call it the insanity. So in my case, like I said, I went from Jacksonville Beach, Florida to San Diego, California, and returned. So I decided to do this on my birthday weekend in 2017. Just kind of a little present for myself. I spent months and months planning the route. Actually, I started a year ahead of time doing my first event or ride for the Iron Butt Association, which is a Saddle Sore 1000. You have to be in their system, and you have to complete what's called a butt burner gold before you can even attempt the coast to coast to coast ride. So my first event was in October of 2016, where I did the Saddle Sore 1000. That ride, I went from Fort Mill, South Carolina to Knoxville, Tennessee, down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Roll Tide, and then back up I-20 to I-85 back into Fort Mill. That was just over 1,000 miles, and that got me my first official number into the Iron Butt Association. That was on a a Honda NT700V, also called the Duval in other countries. Great little bike, and it did really fine for that ride. So my second ride after that to qualify to be able to do the coast to coast to coast was a butt burner gold. Again, that's 1,500 miles in 24 hours. That was a grueling ride. That was a very grueling ride, and that took me from Fort Mill down to Key Largo, Florida, right across the first bridge, right past Miami, onto the first key. There's a Shell gas station right there. Had it timed out perfect. Hit the gas station, turned around, came back. That ride there, I left Fort Mill, it was in the 30s. Got down to Key Largo, it was in the 90s. And then by the time I got back to Fort Mill, it was snowing. So it was a wild swing in temperatures with that. That was really the first ride that taught me how to overcome my own mind. Your mind starts to play games on you when you're riding a long ride like that or running a marathon. I mean, I ran a couple marathons. We'll talk about those in a future video. But your own mind can be your worst enemy because it starts putting doubt in, and you don't listen to a voice more than you listen to your own. So, like I said, that ride there really taught me a lot as to how to overcome the physical discomfort and get into your own head. Um, so, like I said, that was a fun ride. Got it completed, and that officially set me up for the coast to coast to coast attempt. So I bought a bike specific for that ride. It was a 2013 Yamaha FJR 1300. I specifically chose the 2013 model because it was the first year that came with factory cruise control. On a trip like that, cruise control was absolutely important. What I didn't know was that 2013 was electronically limited to 82 miles an hour, which means actually 80 miles an hour in real time. So that kind of it forced me to ride slower, which is fine. I mean, it actually helped my mileage. I did discover on the NT700 that the faster you go, the more fuel you use, the more fuel you use, the more fuel stops you have. The more stops you have, the more time you're off the road. So it's actually faster to drive slower, if that makes any sense. At least with that bike. Um, the FJR, like I said, I spent 6 months setting the bike up, different windshields, different seats, different spoilers, different phone setups, different saddlebags, different tank bags with water supply. I even had my little flippy cup going. Um, I spent months and months and months getting that bike set up, making trips from Fort Mill down to Chester, South Carolina, right down I-77, and just trying out different setups. And I changed the spoiler just a little bit and see how that affected the air pocket until I felt like I had the absolute perfect setup. So the morning came. It was time to leave. Met my wife down in Rock Hill. We had breakfast at Waffle House. I gave her a kiss and told her I'd see her in 4 days or 5 days. And headed south, headed down to Jacksonville, Florida that afternoon. Went straight to the beach. Played on the beach. I got my little vial of sand. Figured out the gas station I needed to go to get my receipts signed. Your receipts are in these Iron Butt rides. Your receipts are your documentation. So you have to use Spotwalla, which is a program that tracks you through GPS. But your receipts, your beginning receipt and your end receipt, are your most important ones because that shows actual timestamp. Has to be signed by a witness. I had a cop in Jacksonville sign it, and I had the attendant at the gas station in San Diego sign it. So your receipts are very important, and you have to keep track of those. So you take the receipt, you get all your information, tuck those in a very safe place because without those, you've got absolutely nothing. So, got my hotel room, got to bed early. My plan was to stick to my normal sleep cycle as close as possible. So I usually get up at 3 a.m. So I planned on a 1 a.m. start time to give me as absolute maximum amount of time in the saddle without really throwing my schedule off. So got on the bike at 1 a.m. from the hotel room in Jacksonville Beach, and I started heading west. And I had a good idea as to where I wanted to stop, these general points, but I didn't have anything set in stone. So the biggest thing I knew is that I needed to make it to Junction, Texas. Junction, Texas is the dead center of in Texas on I-10. So when you cross into Texas, you got 800 miles on I-10. Junction is mile marker 400, so it's dead center. So I knew that was my goal, and I kind of planned my whole day around that. I knew I was going to lose a couple hours changing time zones. So the day actually went great. Got across the panhandle of Florida into Alabama, roll tide. Slipped through Mississippi, a little section there. Slidell, Louisiana was my first fuel stop, and I actually got some lunch there and kind of, I knew I could have about 5 to 10 minutes at a gas station to go inside, use the bathroom, eat a protein bar. I specifically actually got a new modular helmet just for this ride, so I could flip it up and I could eat, hard candy and small snacks, beef jerky, things like that on the ride to cut down on my time off the bike. So made it through Louisiana. Houston was a big concern of mine of getting stuck into the traffic in Houston. So it was completely eventless. Blew right through Houston without a single concern. And it was getting close to rush hour, and everybody was saying that Houston's horrible during rush hour. And like I said, didn't have a single issue. Blew through San Antonio and made it to Junction, Texas without incident at all. It was actually dusk when I got to Junction, so it was perfect. There was a little motel right off the interstate. Had my bike parked right out front. I knew my schedule there. It was like, okay, I need to get in there, get some sleep. I need to be back on the road by 1 a.m. again. So got my sleep, woke up early. Did all your normal morning stuff. There was no coffee in the hotel room, and this was this old fashioned motel, so I had to beat on the window of the lobby to get somebody to let me in to get some coffee to kind of get your morning routine started, if you know what I mean. And was finally able to get there, all that squared away. Didn't get the coffee in time, and didn't get the morning activities, and which came back to bite me somewhere just east of El Paso, and the coffee finally kicked in, and I had to find me a gas station that was somewhere right along the border, and do my morning activities. So everybody I talked to about the ride said that Arizona is really tough, mainly because of the heat and because of the wind, and that did prove to be true. Excuse me, my voice is a little dry here. New Mexico was gorgeous. West Texas was really cool with all the plateaus and everything. New Mexico was gorgeous, but once I got into Arizona, the temperature really picked up, as did the wind. And so the crosswinds just really were throwing me off. Between myself, the bike, and all the stuff I was carrying, I was probably close to 1,000 pounds, and it was still just pushing me all over the road like it was nothing, like I was riding a little 250. And I was riding along, and all of a sudden I saw off in the distance, I saw a dust devil, a dirt devil, and I thought it was so neat. I pulled over and actually took a little video of it, and you'll see that here. I called my wife. I said, "Oh, it's so cool! I'm getting ready to. I see these dust devils off on the side of the road." So, put my phone away, get back on the road, and all of a sudden, I see on my left hand side, I see this dirt devil, and it starts coming towards me, and it could not have intercepted me any better. And I drive through this thing, and it was incredible. It was a superheated air with sand. So I was trying to explain it to my wife. I said, take your hair dryer, blow it in your face, and then throw some sand in your face on top of that. Just about threw me off the interstate, and there's or cacti that line the interstate, and just about threw me into those. And thankfully, I was able to get through that, no issues at all. Crossed into California in the desert. And you would think October it would be a little bit cooler. Well, it wasn't. So it was. I remember stopping in El Centro, and I think it was 105 degrees, midday, and it was just absolutely brutal. And everybody says it's dry heat. Well, stick your head in the oven and tell me that's dry heat. So get fuel. I'm tracking my time to San Diego, and I'm tracking just dead on perfect, and could not have had a better schedule. So get across the mountains, get into the valley in San Diego, and I go straight to the beach. And it's right at dusk, and I go rolling up to the beach. I'm exhausted. It was the hardest day of riding I've ever had, and I'm so exhausted. I'm just shaky. And walk onto the beach. Wearing my full suit. It's a Joe Rocket Survivor suit, and all my gear and everything else. And I look like all these beautiful people in bikinis and board shorts and everything else, and I'm wearing this big one-piece black suit. I finally convinced a girl to take a picture of me on the beach just so I had some documentation. Scooped up my little vial of sand, and then I went on back over to Voltaire Street, where the closest gas station is, and I went in and I got my fuel, got my receipt, and then next door, and again in the Iron Butt community, there's a place called Roberto's Taco Shop right on Voltaire Street, a couple blocks from the beach, and that's like the go-to place to sit down, have a burrito, and kind of celebrate that, hey, you did this trip. So I got my burrito. Didn't really feel like sitting out there, so I just put it in my tank bag and went to my hotel room. Went in there again. I was just completely exhausted. I was just shaky. I was so tired. Ate my burrito. Took me a quick shower, and I was like, okay, back on the road, heading east at 3 a.m. So I already kind of planned that I had banked up a couple hours, so I'd finished my West Coast leg early, so I had a couple hours banked. So I knew that I could get a couple additional hours of sleep before I started returning east. So I had the whole thing timed out, and I had about 2 hours extra. So 3 o'clock the next morning hits, back on the FJR and start heading east. The return trip, the true through Arizona that morning, as the sun was coming up, was gorgeous. The sun was right in my face. Just riding along, it was nice and cool right before it got too hot. So the eastbound trip through Arizona was gorgeous. I get to New Mexico and I start going through the mountains, coming back down, and it hits me that I'm hungry and I'm tired and I miss my family. So I'd never been away from my wife and son for that long of a period of time, and he was 6 or 7 at the time, so he was little. And I finally come down out of the mountains and I hit a Love's truck stop. If you've ever done the east to west trip on I-10, Love's is it's your standard. There's a Love's every 150 miles. It's perfect. And for me, of having limited amount of time, I knew exactly where the pumps were at. I knew exactly where the bathrooms were at. I knew where the drinks were at inside. I knew where it was very standardized, and I really appreciate that. So Love's, shout out to you guys. But I come down the mountains and I get into this Love's truck stop in New Mexico, and I'm just tired and I'm down on myself. And I see this father and son who, I guess he was a truck driver, and his son was riding along with him, and son was maybe 6 or 7. And they're standing over to the side and they're doing these stretches and doing calisthenics and everything. And I just started breaking down crying. I miss my son, and I'm just standing at this pump beside this motorcycle, just bawling like a baby. It was at that moment I decided that my determination is I'm finishing this damn ride. And so got my stuff together, went inside, got a Subway sandwich, got back on the bike, and I started heading east. So get back into back through El Paso. There was some construction that slowed me down. Get into to West Texas, heading east. And if you've ever been to West Texas on I-10, it is just desolate. There's absolutely nothing. And it was already dark. This was about 9 or 10 p.m., and I knew I had to get back to Junction to be able to stick on my schedule. So this is where, shout out to my wife, Melissa. She got on the phone with me about 10 p.m., and she stayed on the phone with me for 3 hours while I traveled through West Texas, dodging these little small deer and armadillos and everything else on the side of the road until I made it to Junction. So she stayed on the phone with me, kept me entertained, kept me energized, stayed on the phone with me and kept me focused on what I had to do until I got to Junction. So I don't think I could have completed that ride without her. So Melissa, thank you. Made it back to Junction. My timing was good. I knew I had a couple hours. I could get inside, take a shower, and get ready. So the next morning, I woke up, checked my time, checked the weather. Everything was good. I even had a couple of additional hours. I pushed it so hard that previous day that I decided I had to do something touristy. So I dipped into San Antonio. I wanted to find the Alamo. So I went and found the Alamo. Got me a good pic. Had somebody take me a picture in front of the Alamo. I can say I did it. So after that, I was like, okay, no more screwing around. Get back on the bike, head east. Head east, go through Houston again. Not a single issue in Houston. Flew right through there. Get back into Louisiana, and I hit a little bit of construction traffic, or there was an accident or something. And it's 100 degrees outside. It just got done raining, so I'm sitting on this bike just baking on the interstate, and so I didn't even have any room to filter through the traffic. So I'm just sitting there just stewing. And finally, the traffic broke up. Get across there, cross over the Mississippi River. And at that point, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this. So the whole time, we're doing this, every time I stop, I'm updating. I have a thread on ADV Rider, and I'll post a link to that too. And I'm updating everybody, and I'm getting all these words of encouragement, and which really helped out. And I'm updating people, and you can see all the timestamps as we go through of how we did that. So get into the Panhandle of Texas. It's already dark, but I know I'm going to make this. I know I'm going to make this trip. So keep hauling ass, heading east on I-10. And I finally make it back to Jacksonville Beach, and I did. Made the entire trip.
I made
4,800 and something miles, and I did it in 48 hours, 98 hours and 10 minutes. So I still had time to spare. So, made it back, went to the beach. I was like, I got to document this, and you'll see a little video here of me just kind of sharing my moment.
I'm exhausted. Ready for some sleep.
Started heading north. I finished the ride, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna start heading home. So I started heading north on 95. Hit Brunswick, Georgia, and I was like, that's it. I'm done. I can't go any further. So I got me a motel right there.
Probably the single hardest
got
thing
some
I've
good
ever
sleep. Woke up the next morning,
wise.
made it all the way home, and I started doing my paperwork. And it wasn't until I got home that I realized that not only did I do the coast to coast to coast in 100 hours, I also did a 5,000 miles in 5 days, which was its own separate certification, which was really cool to have that. So, like I said, here's my story. Again, if you hung around for this, I know we're pushing 18 minutes now. If you hung around for this, thank you. Again, like I said, this is I love telling these stories of all these cool things that I've done over the years, and I wish I would have documented them then, but I didn't. But I'm sharing it with you guys now. Again, please comment if you think my story sucks or you think I'm making it up. Like it, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.